Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Today I want to talk about a lesson that shaped my entire life as an investor, as a business owner, and as a human being. It's a lesson that sounds simple, but most people never truly apply it. Long-term thinking beats quick wins. Every single time. You don't need to be brilliant to build wealth. You don't need to predict the next big trend. You don't need to move faster than everyone else. What you really need is patience, clarity, and the discipline to let time work in your favor. I learned this early. I realized that the world is full of people chasing excitement. They want the fast dollar, the quick return, the overnight success story. They want something dramatic to happen so they can say, "I knew it." But the truth is, wealth doesn't reward excitement. It rewards steadiness. Let me explain. When I was young, I loved numbers and I loved watching how money grew. And one thing became obvious. The most powerful force in finance is not intelligence, it's compounding. Compounding doesn't need speed. It needs consistency. It needs time. The problem is, time doesn't impress most people. It's slow, silent, and not very entertaining. Quick wins, on the other hand, feel good. They give you a rush. They make you feel smart. They make you feel like you found a secret shortcut. But shortcuts rarely lead to lasting results. If you look at the people who build lifelong wealth, they share one quality. They think far ahead. Not a week, not a month, sometimes not even a year. They think in decades. They make decisions today that might not pay off until long after everyone else has forgotten about them. Now, some people hear that and say, "But Warren, the world is changing. Don't I need to move fast?" The truth is, the principles of wealth haven't changed at all. The world changes. Technology changes. People don't. Our fears don't. Our impatience doesn't. Our desire to get rich quickly certainly doesn't. And that's why long-term thinkers always have an advantage. When markets fall, the short-term thinkers panic. When the news turns negative, the short-term thinkers run. When someone else makes money faster, the short-term thinkers chase the trend. But the long-term thinker, he stays steady. He focuses on value, not noise. He looks for businesses he understands and leaders he trusts. He invests in things built to last, not things built to impress. Let me give you an example. I bought shares of Coca-Cola in 1988. People said I was late. They said the company couldn't grow anymore. They said a new drink or new technology would make it irrelevant. Today, decades later, those shares still sit in our portfolio. They've produced billions in value. Not because Coca-Cola did something magical. Not because I made a clever prediction. But because time did the heavy lifting. When you think long-term, you don't need perfect timing. You don't need to guess the next crisis. You don't need to trade every week. You simply need to let great businesses reward you slowly. There's an old saying, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. I've seen this with my own eyes for more than 70 years. The impatient want to win quickly. The patient want to win permanently. You can always tell the difference. The impatient investor asks, "How much can I make this month?" The patient investor asks, "What will these decisions do for me over the next 10 years?" The impatient investor checks prices every hour. The patient investor checks the quality of the business. The impatient investor wants to look smart today. The patient investor wants to be wealthy tomorrow. And here's the punchline. Only one of them wakes up rich. Long-term thinking is not just about money. It's about how you live. It teaches you to ignore distractions. It teaches you to choose relationships carefully. It teaches you to spend more time building than bragging. It teaches you to put your energy into things that last, not things that fade. The world will always tempt you with quick wins, fast money, flashy success, shortcuts that promise a lot but deliver little. But every meaningful success story in history shares the same foundation: consistent effort over a long period of time. I was never the smartest guy in the room. I didn't have special access. I didn't build an empire in a year. What I had was something anyone can develop: a long-term mindset. If you can learn to think beyond the moment, to act with clarity rather than emotion, to choose slow, steady growth instead of fast, unstable gains, then you've already won half the battle. Because the truth is simple. Quick wins feel good. Long-term wins change your life. Now, I want to share something that most people overlook. When we talk about long-term thinking, many imagine it's only about waiting. They think patience means sitting still and hoping things turn out well. But that's not what long-term thinking really is. Long-term thinking is active. It's intentional. It's a mindset that shapes every choice you make. For me, long-term thinking meant spending years reading company reports when no one else bothered. It meant learning from the mistakes of others instead of rushing to make them myself. It meant saying no many more times than I said yes. Most people believe success comes from saying yes to the right opportunity. But I found that long-term success comes from avoiding the wrong ones. You don't need to swing at every pitch. You don't need to chase every idea. You don't need to turn every moment into a decision. You need to wait for the right moment, the right investment, the right opportunity that fits your principles. And that brings me to another idea. Long-term thinkers rely on principles, not predictions. Predictions try to guess the future. Principles help you handle the future. Predictions say, this stock will double in a month. Principles say, buy what you understand. Don't risk more than you can handle. Focus on real value. Predictions excite you for a day. Principles guide you for a lifetime. When you live by principles, you don't panic when the world becomes uncertain. You don't freeze when things look bad. You don't celebrate too much when things look good. You stay balanced, steady, and grounded. That's the true advantage of thinking long-term. It gives you emotional strength. People often ask me, Warren, aren't you afraid during market crashes? Here's the truth. Fear usually comes from confusion. When you don't understand what you own or why you own it, your mind fills the gaps with worry. But when you know the value of what you hold, when you've chosen it carefully, studied it deeply, and committed to it for the long run, your fear fades. You stop reacting to short-term noise and start responding to long-term reality. It's the same in life. A relationship built on quick excitement won't survive hard times. A career built on trends won't survive change. A business built on shortcuts won't survive competition. But anything built with time, care, and consistency becomes strong enough to outlast storms. The world loves speed, but speed alone won't get you where you want to go. Direction matters more. Purpose matters more. Patience matters more. When I buy a company, I'm not thinking about what it will look like next year. I'm thinking about what it will look like in 10 or 20 years. I'm thinking about whether it will still matter, still serve people, still have a moat, a real advantage that keeps it valuable. If it doesn't pass that test, I don't buy it. Not because I'm afraid, but because I'm disciplined. And discipline is something time rewards. Now, let me share something personal. The older I get, the more I realize that long-term thinking doesn't just help you build wealth, it brings peace. It frees you from stress. It frees you from comparison. It frees you from the pressure to constantly chase more. When you think long-term, you stop rushing. You stop competing with everyone else's timeline. You stop measuring success by speed. You measure success by stability, by growth, by resilience, by what lasts. Because what good is a quick win if it disappears just as quickly? I've seen countless people rise fast and fall faster. They wanted results, not wisdom. They chased rewards, not understanding. They celebrated too early and collapsed too soon. The wealthiest people I know, the most fulfilled people I've met, they all share the same quiet power, patience. They think long. They move slow. They build deep. They let time become their partner. And time, when you respect it, is the most generous partner you will ever have. So if you want your future to be strong, steady, and meaningful, don't ask, how fast can I get there? Ask instead, what can I build today that will still matter 20 years from now? Because that is the difference between a quick win and a lasting win. There's another lesson I learned early in my life that shaped how I see long-term thinking. Most people believe that opportunities show up in bright colors with loud announcements. They imagine big chances arriving with excitement and urgency. But in reality, The best opportunities usually come quietly. They don't shout. They don't pressure you. They don't force you to act fast. They're steady, reliable, and often overlooked by people chasing something more dramatic. I've made some of my best investments in companies that weren't flashy at all. They made soap, insurance, paint, newspapers, or furniture. Nothing glamorous. Nothing that trends on social media. But they had strong foundations. They served real needs. They had teams that cared about the long game. And because other people ignored them, their value grew steadily, quietly, and powerfully over time. That's something long-term thinkers understand. The real treasure is often hidden behind boredom. We live in a world that tries to make everything exciting. But excitement fades. Consistency compounds. If you can learn to love the steady, simple, repeated actions that move you forward, you'll always be ahead of the crowd. The crowd wants fireworks. You want results. And the truth is, long-term thinking is less about talent and more about temperament. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You don't need to predict the future. You don't need to win every day. You just need the temperament to stay calm when others panic and stay patient when others rush. Temperament is your emotional compass. It keeps you from being pulled in every direction. It protects you from the noise, the drama, the temptation to chase fast rewards. You can develop temperament the same way you develop muscle, through practice, repetition, and honest self-reflection. Every time you choose patience over pressure, you strengthen it. Every time you stick to your plan instead of reacting to chaos, you strengthen it. Every time you remind yourself that time is your ally, not your enemy, you strengthen it. And once you build that temperament, the whole world shifts. Suddenly, you're not shaken by every headline. You're not nervous every time the market moves. You're not comparing your progress to someone else's highlight reel. You're focused on your own lane, your own goals, your own rhythm. You start to understand something most people miss. Long-term thinking isn't slow. It's strategic. Speed comes and goes, but strategy lasts. Anyone can rush. Not everyone can endure. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest benefits of long-term thinking: the way it compounds your decisions. Compounding isn't just a financial concept. It applies to everything in life. Good habits compound. Skills compound. Relationships compound. Reputation compounds. Knowledge compounds. Every positive action you take builds on the last one. Every small improvement grows bigger over time. Every lesson becomes part of your foundation. Most people stop too early. They quit right before the compounding effect starts to kick in. They plant seeds but don't wait for the harvest. They see slow progress and assume nothing is happening. But long-term thinkers understand that growth happens beneath the surface long before it appears above ground. Your job is to plant, water, and wait. Not wish. Not rush. Just continue. Think about my investment philosophy. I'm not trying to be everywhere. I'm trying to be in the right place long enough for compounding to work its magic. That approach can shape your life as well. If you read every day for 5 years, you won't just be smarter, you'll think differently. If you save consistently for 10 years, you won't just have money, you'll have options. If you work on your craft daily, you won't just improve, you'll transform. These are long-term wins that no quick shortcut can match. And that's why I always say, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. Your future self is counting on you to plant those trees now. To make choices today that will feel like blessings tomorrow. To focus less on quick glory and more on lasting growth. Because nothing great is built overnight. But anything great can be built over time. Now, I want to share something many people misunderstand. Long-term thinking doesn't mean doing nothing. It doesn't mean sitting still and hoping the future works out. It means being intentional. It means knowing why you're doing what you're doing and making steady progress toward it. When people chase quick wins, they often confuse movement with progress. They run fast, but they run in circles. They stay busy, but they don't build anything that lasts. Long-term thinkers move differently. They move with purpose. They choose efforts that actually matter, even if they don't look impressive in the moment. Here's a simple truth I learned early. You don't get rewarded for speed. You get rewarded for direction. A lot of investors lost fortunes trying to outsmart the market from week to week. They bought high because everyone else was excited, and they sold low because fear took over. They tried to win fast, but they lost big. Meanwhile, I spent my time doing something less dramatic. I studied companies, their leaders, their economics, their habits, their culture. I waited for the right price. And when the moment came, I invested with confidence and held with patience. The long-term thinker isn't trying to win today. He's trying to win for decades. That's a very different mindset. And here's the surprising part. Long-term thinking actually makes life easier. You don't wake up every morning in a panic. You don't need to react to every trend. You don't chase every new opportunity the moment it appears. You act on what's proven, what's solid, what's meaningful. This isn't just about money. This is about your whole life. If you want strong health, you don't crash diet for 2 weeks. You build habits that support you for years. If you want meaningful relationships, you don't force quick connections. You invest time, consistency, and honesty. If you want a successful career, you don't chase every shiny job. You build skills that compound in value. In every part of life, the long-term mindset wins. People often ask me how to stay patient when the world feels so fast. Here's my answer. You slow down your thinking by grounding yourself in what actually matters. Ask yourself, will this matter 5 years from now? Will this matter 10 years from now? If the answer is no, don't let it control your mood or your decisions. When markets fall, when fear rises, when everyone around you is panicking, zoom out. Zoom out until the noise disappears and only the truth remains. Because truth doesn't change with headlines. Value doesn't disappear just because emotions run high. Strong foundations don't break because of temporary storms. The market has always recovered. People who stayed calm have always come out stronger. And long-term thinkers have always outperformed short-term gamblers. But let me share something even more important. Long-term thinking gives you freedom. When you're not chasing the next quick win, you're not trapped by pressure. You're not ruled by fear. You're not comparing yourself to everyone else's highlight reels. You're focused on your own progress, at your own pace, toward your own future. That's real power. And the best part, anyone can develop this mindset. You don't need special skills. You don't need inside information. You don't need to be a genius. You just need discipline, patience, and the willingness to think beyond today. Because the truth is simple. Quick wins look good for a moment. Long-term wins last a lifetime. I want you to remember something that guided many of my decisions. Time is the friend of the wonderful business and the enemy of the mediocre one. This idea shapes everything about long-term thinking. If you choose well, time lifts you. If you choose poorly, time exposes you. Most people rush into decisions because they're afraid of missing out. But fear is a terrible advisor. Fear pushes you toward quick wins, shortcuts, and emotional reactions. And emotional decisions rarely end well. Long-term thinking isn't about reacting. It's about preparing. When I buy a company, I'm not thinking about how it will perform in the next quarter. I'm thinking about where it will be in 10, 20, or even 50 years. I ask myself simple questions. Does it solve a real problem? Does it serve real people? Does it have strong leadership? Is it built on principles that won't fade with time? If the answers are yes, then time becomes our ally. Every year strengthens the investment instead of weakening it. Now, think about your own life. Where can time help you? Where can time multiply your efforts? If you're building a career, time is your chance to grow into a true expert. If you're building wealth, time lets compound interest work in your favor. If you're building character, time rewards consistency and discipline. Long-term thinking means you trust time enough to let it work. But here's the challenge. Most people don't give time a chance. They quit too soon. They doubt too quickly. They let impatience bury their progress. You've probably heard me say, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. This isn't just about investing. It's a lesson about life. People who rush, lose. People who wait with focus, win. But waiting doesn't mean being passive. It means being consistent. Read every day. Learn every day. Save every month. Improve every year. Tiny steps, repeated for a long time, become massive achievements. Let me tell you something else. Long-term thinking gives you clarity. When you're not chasing everything, you can finally see what matters. You stop making decisions out of panic. You stop letting temporary events shake you. You stop living for applause and start living for results. In my early years, I didn't care what other people were doing. I didn't care if they were making fast money. I didn't care if they laughed at my slow approach. I cared about the destination, not the speed. Most people live like sprinters. They burn out, break down, and quit. Long-term thinkers live like marathoners. They pace themselves. They breathe. They stay steady. They stay aware. And they finish strong. If there's one skill that will set you apart, it's the ability to stay focused when the world tries to distract you. Distraction is the enemy of long-term thinking. Noise is the enemy of progress. Hype is the enemy of wisdom. Wisdom grows quietly. Success builds quietly. Wealth expands quietly. You don't need everyone to see your progress. You don't need to announce every plan. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Your results will speak for you in time. And that's the beauty of long-term thinking. It works even when no one is watching. It pays you even when the world doubts you. It builds you into someone who doesn't just win once, but wins again and again. Now, there's a mindset shift that every long-term thinker eventually makes, and it changes everything. You stop asking, how fast can I get there? And start asking, how solid can I build this? Speed makes you fragile. Foundation makes you strong. A quick win can disappear just as quickly as it arrived. But long-term wins are supported by structure, by learning, by discipline, by deliberate choices that stand the test of time. Look at any lasting achievement. A stable business. A trusted reputation. A strong portfolio. A meaningful relationship. A deep skill. None of these are created by shortcuts. They're built little by little, day after day. People underestimate slow growth because it doesn't feel powerful in the moment. But slow growth becomes unstoppable when it compounds. I've always believed that if you take care of the process, the results will take care of themselves. Most people do the opposite. They chase results and ignore the process. They want the reward without the patience. They want the payoff without the endurance. But you can't microwave greatness. You can only build it. And building takes time. One of the most important habits you can develop is learning to be comfortable with boredom. Because long-term success is often boring. It's repetitive. It's predictable. But that's the beauty of it. Boring habits produce extraordinary outcomes. Reading every day isn't exciting. Saving consistently isn't exciting. Working on your craft for years isn't exciting. But the person you become on the other side of that discipline is extraordinary. When you chase quick wins, you're chasing excitement. When you think long-term, you're chasing freedom. Freedom from stress. Freedom from panic. Freedom from bad decisions. Freedom from the pressure to keep up with everyone else. Long-term thinking gives you control over your life in a way that short-term thinking never can. There's something else important here. The world rewards rare behavior. And patience is rare. Consistency is rare. Endurance is rare. Humility is rare. That's why long-term thinkers end up in the top 1%. Not because they're the smartest, but because they're the most consistent. Remember this. You don't need to be brilliant. You just need to avoid big mistakes and stay on course long enough for the good decisions to pay off. It took me years to understand that the biggest edge you can have is not IQ, not access, not luck. It's the ability to think in decades while the world thinks in minutes. If you can do that, you'll be ahead of 99% of people without ever rushing. Let me end this part with something I've always believed. The real test of an investor isn't how they act in good times, but how they behave in bad times. And the real test of a person is the same. Your patience will be tested. Your discipline will be tested. Your confidence will be tested. Your long-term thinking will be tested. But every test is a chance to prove to yourself that you're playing a different game, your game. A game where slow, steady, and thoughtful wins every time. There's something I want to make very clear. Long-term thinking doesn't eliminate challenges. It simply gives you a better way to face them. Every journey has setbacks. Every plan has obstacles. Every person who aims high will experience moments of doubt. But the difference between short-term and long-term thinkers is how they respond to those moments. Short-term thinkers see a setback as a sign to quit. Long-term thinkers see a setback as part of the process. When a stock drops, the short-term thinker panics. The long-term thinker asks, has the real value changed, or has only the price changed? If the value remains solid, a lower price is simply an opportunity. This same mindset applies to your goals. If you face a setback in your career, relationships, or personal growth, you don't give up. You reassess. You learn. You adjust. And you keep going. Long-term thinking gives you emotional stability. It protects you from reacting to every temporary bump. It gives you the ability to zoom out and see the bigger picture. That ability, zooming out, is one of the greatest life tools you can develop. When the world feels chaotic, zoom out. When you feel behind, zoom out. When others rush, zoom out. When fear rises, zoom out. Because the moment you step back, the truth becomes clearer. You remember where you're going. You remember why you started. You remember that progress isn't measured in minutes. It's measured over years. Let me share a lesson from my personal habits. I spend most of my day reading. Not reacting, not predicting, not chasing the next hot story, just reading. Because knowledge compounds. Because patience sharpens judgment. Because good decisions come from quiet thinking, not emotional pressure. This is the opposite of how most people live. Most people consume noise, not knowledge. They react instead of reflect. They move without understanding where they're headed. Long-term thinkers slow down enough to understand. That's why they make better decisions. Another important part of long-term thinking is knowing when to say no. People think success comes from saying yes to many opportunities. It doesn't. Success comes from saying no to almost everything except what truly matters. Time is limited. Focus is limited. Energy is limited. You protect those resources by choosing carefully, not constantly. Throughout my life, I've said no far more often than I've said yes. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. You can't build anything meaningful if you're always distracted by what's temporary. Quick wins try to lure you into constant motion. Long-term wins require consistent direction. That means you must know your priorities. If something doesn't move you toward them, ignore it. Even if it looks exciting. Even if others chase it. Even if it promises fast results. Fast results rarely last. But disciplined results do. People often ask me how they can think long-term when everything around them moves so fast. My answer is simple. You create your own pace. You don't let the world rush you. You don't let pressure dictate your choices. You don't let someone else's timeline define your success. Your timeline is yours. Your journey is yours. Your rules are yours. And when you think long-term, you stop competing with others. You compete with your own past self. And that's a game you can actually win. You measure progress differently. You look at growth, not speed. You look at depth, not attention. You look at stability, not excitement. This shift changes everything. It changes how you work. It changes how you make decisions. It changes how you see the world. Most importantly, it changes who you become. Because long-term thinking isn't just a strategy, it's a character trait. It shapes your discipline, your patience, your resilience, and your confidence. And once you master it, life becomes less chaotic and more purposeful. Here's something many people never realize until it's too late. Quick wins can make you feel successful, but long-term thinking makes you be successful. There's a difference between looking like you're winning and actually winning. Short-term thinkers chase the appearance of progress. They want validation now. They want recognition now. They want results now. But long-term thinkers care about the foundation beneath their results. A strong foundation isn't always visible. It's built in quiet hours. It's built in consistent habits. It's built in small decisions that don't impress anyone but matter deeply over time. Think about a skyscraper. People admire the height, the design, the lights. But no one admires the months spent digging the foundation. No one cheers for the steel beams before the walls go up. No one celebrates the slow, messy, early steps. But without the foundation, that tall building wouldn't last a single storm. Your life works the same way. Long-term success requires invisible work, boring work, disciplined work. Work that won't get applause today but will earn respect years down the road. That's why long-term thinking is a superpower. It lets you stay committed even when the world isn't watching. And here's the truth. Most people quit because they believe slow progress means no progress. But slow progress is the most durable kind. You don't want growth that explodes and collapses. You want growth that accumulates and compounds. Compounding is nature's greatest secret. $1 saved today becomes many dollars decades later. One skill practiced today becomes mastery years later. One disciplined choice today becomes a transformed life over time. Compounding rewards the patient and punishes the impulsive. Now, let me speak about something just as important: emotional control. Long-term thinking isn't just about strategy. It's about controlling your emotions so they don't control your future. Fear, greed, excitement, doubt, they're always there. But you cannot let them dictate your decisions. When the market crashes, fear whispers, sell everything. When the market rises, greed whispers, buy everything. When a trend goes viral, excitement whispers, chase it. When progress slows, doubt whispers, maybe you should quit. If you listen to these voices, you lose your direction. But when you think long-term, you recognize these emotions for what they are: temporary storms. Storms pass. Foundations don't. The people who panic lose. The people who stay anchored win. A calm mind is an investor's greatest advantage. A calm mind is a leader's greatest strength. A calm mind is a builder's greatest tool. Calm doesn't come from luck. It comes from clarity. Clarity about what matters in the long run. When you know your destination, the noise becomes just that, noise. Another benefit of long-term thinking is that it teaches you delayed gratification, choosing a bigger reward tomorrow instead of a smaller reward today. Most people are trapped by the desire for instant pleasure. They spend instead of save. They entertain instead of learn. They choose comfort over commitment. But greatness requires time. Wealth requires time. Mastery requires time. The question is simple. Do you want to feel successful today or be successful tomorrow? Long-term thinkers choose tomorrow. And tomorrow rewards them. The world is full of stories about people who won fast but lost even faster. But you rarely hear stories about quiet, consistent people who built something that endured for decades. Yet those are the people whose lives we admire. Those are the people who leave lasting impact. Because quick success can make you loud, but long-term success makes you legendary. Let me give you the most important truth of all. Your life becomes easier when you think long-term because decisions become clearer. You no longer ask, what feels good right now? You ask, what creates value over time? And the moment you start asking that question, you step into a different category of people. People who don't gamble with their future, who don't chase distractions, who don't break under pressure. You become someone whose success is inevitable because it's built on years, not moments. There's a moment in everyone's life when they realize that the world doesn't reward the most talented person. It rewards the most consistent person. Consistency is the heart of long-term thinking. Not intensity. Not perfection. Consistency. Anyone can work hard for a day. Anyone can feel motivated for a week. Anyone can make bold plans for a month. But a person who shows up for years, quietly improving, quietly learning, quietly building, that person becomes unstoppable. I've seen brilliant people fail because they wanted results too quickly. And I've seen average people succeed because they trusted the process and stayed patient long after others quit. This is where character becomes more important than intelligence. Because long-term thinking is a test of character. Can you stick with a plan when no one sees your effort? Can you stay disciplined when results are slow? Can you stay calm when others panic? Can you trust the process when everyone tells you you're moving too slowly? If you can answer yes to those questions, then you already have the mindset of a long-term winner. Now let's talk about something that scares people: waiting. People avoid long-term thinking because they fear waiting. But waiting isn't idle. Waiting is preparation. Waiting is observation. Waiting is strengthening your position. When you think long-term, you learn to wait with purpose. You're not sitting back. You're preparing for the right opportunity, the right moment, the right investment, the right decision. I've made most of my money by waiting for the perfect pitch. Not swinging at every ball. Not chasing every opportunity. Just waiting for the pitch that I could hit out of the park. Life works the same way. You don't need 100 opportunities. You need a few great ones, and the patience to wait for them. Short-term thinkers are always swinging wildly, trying to hit anything they can. Long-term thinkers wait for the pitch they know they can crush. That's how you avoid mistakes. That's how you avoid regret. That's how you avoid burning yourself out. The world constantly tells you to hurry. But remember this: hurry creates pressure. Pressure creates mistakes. Mistakes destroy progress. Patience creates clarity. Clarity creates good decisions. Good decisions multiply over time. Now, let's talk about another part of long-term thinking that people rarely discuss. Your circle. Who you surround yourself with has a massive impact on how you think. Short-term people will pressure you into short-term decisions. They'll mock your patience. They'll question your discipline. They'll push you to rush because they are rushing. You need people who understand time. People who are builders. People who aren't afraid of slow, steady progress. People who don't expect miracles overnight. People who believe in earning, not gambling. Your environment can either speed you up or slow you down. Choose one that strengthens your long-term mindset. Another key element is learning to ignore noise. The world is louder than ever. News cycles are faster. Opinions spread instantly. Everyone is trying to predict what will happen tomorrow. But long-term thinkers don't live in tomorrow. And here's the truth Buffett wants everyone to understand: long-term thinking is not passive. It's not about sitting still and hoping for the best. It's about choosing your direction with intention, then refusing to be dragged off course by noise. He says you don't rise by reacting. You rise by deciding. Deciding what matters. Deciding what you believe in. Deciding where your time, money, and energy go. And then protecting those decisions with discipline. Because the world will try to push you into rushing. It will pressure you to chase what's hot. It will tempt you with what's easy. And it will mock you for being patient. But Buffett never cared about being trendy. He cared about being right. And he knew something most people still struggle with today. You don't need to win every day. You just need to win over time. He compared long-term thinking to planting a tree. The day you plant it, nothing happens. A week later, still nothing. A month later, barely anything. A year later, a small change. 5 years later, it's growing. 10 years later, it's giving shade. 20 years later, it's part of the landscape. That's how wealth grows. That's how businesses grow. That's how people grow. Slowly, silently, steadily. Not with fireworks, but with time. Buffett says the biggest advantage any person can have is a long time horizon. Not more money. Not more connections. Not more luck. Just time. Because time multiplies good decisions and exposes bad ones. Time rewards consistency and crushes impulsiveness. Time turns small habits into big outcomes. But to use time well, you have to think ahead. You have to zoom out. You have to stop judging your progress by today and start judging it by tomorrow. Buffett likes to say, someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree long ago. Every choice you make is a seed. Your habits, seeds. Your spending, seeds. Your learning, seeds. Your relationships, seeds. Your mindset, seeds. Most people want shade without planting. They want results without patience. They want success without seasons. They want big changes without small actions repeated over time. But Buffett built his life on this single idea. If you're willing to wait longer than everyone else, you'll end up with things no one else gets. And that's the heart of long-term thinking. It's not fancy. It's not dramatic. It's not exciting. But it is powerful. Buffett's entire philosophy can be summed up in one line. Play the game nobody else has the patience for. Because when everyone else is chasing quick wins, the field gets crowded. People rush. People gamble. People fall apart. But when you think long-term, the field becomes quiet. You're no longer competing with the crowd. You're competing with yourself. And that's a game you can win. Buffett likes to remind people that true wealth, financial and personal, comes from a mindset, not a moment. It comes from choosing what lasts instead of what shines. It comes from building instead of betting. It comes from staying when others sprint. And that's why long-term thinking will always beat quick wins. Because quick wins fade. But long-term success endures.